Hi, I'm Matt Pike, a sound designer and composer. In this episode of the PolyBrute tutorial series, we'll look at its sequencer and arpeggiator. With the visual feedback and quick interaction offered by the Matrix, it has a powerful set of features while remaining intuitive and quick, which is so important when composing and performing. We'll look at how to program and edit steps, trigger some ever-changing polyphonic arpeggios, and everything in between. PolyBrute's sequencer and arpeggiator builds upon the Matrix Brute sequencing solutions, adding its own unique twist to make it perfect for polyphonic sequencing across 64 steps. Let's begin by looking at the sequencer. To view the sequencer, press the sequencer button in the Matrix view. The screen shows us the sequencer page controls, step pages 1 to 32 and 33 to 64, notes view and modulation lanes view. We're looking at notes view right now. The sequencer is controlled by the Matrix. Its layout consists of 4 groups of 3 rows with 8 steps per row. In the notes view, the buttons in the 3 rows represent slide, accent, and key or note events of each step in the sequence. Each step accepts up to 6 notes at a time to enable you to sequence the full polyphony of the PolyBrute. There are 2 ways to create a sequence: step recording and real-time recording. We'll start with step recording. To step record, enable the record button with the sequencer stopped and play in the notes for your sequence. As we hit record, you'll see the sequencer button in the Seek ARP section engages to let us know that the sequencer is active. As we play in our sequence, we can see the notes are all recorded as steps on the key lane of the sequencer. Hopefully you can hear that velocity data is recorded as well. We can add rests or ties when step recording, either by using the tap key to skip to the next step, or jump to the step you want by pressing its button in the Matrix. If we do this while the notes are still held, we'll get a tie and extend the length of the notes, and if we do it without any notes held, we'll get a rest. The ties are displayed with dimly lit LEDs. If we only keep some of the notes held out of a chord when adding a tie, only those notes will be extended. This is clearer to see if we enter step edit mode. I'll come back to this later on. While in step record mode, we can press steps we already have recorded to select them and also get a preview of the step. A little hack is we could use this to play the steps of our sequence musically. We can also select steps by cycling through them using the amount knob in the Matrix. Once a step is selected, we can re-record it if we want to make changes. There are actually 2 note recording behaviors available, no matter which mode we're in: overwrite and overdub. Overwrite is selected by default and replaces the note data for a step when new notes are played. Overdub adds the newly played notes to the existing step data. Great if you want to harmonize a single note. We turn it on by pressing 7 on the number keys. To add an accent to a step, leave step recording mode and press the Matrix button of the row above the note data, forcing the notes to a high velocity setting. We add slides with the top row of each group. Slides will only work when glide is turned up. Slides affect the start of the selected step. This can make the glide knob a very fun control on polyphonic sequences. All sequences are played back according to the currently set time division. You can cycle between the different divisions by repeatedly pressing the time division button, or by pressing and holding the time division button and using the number assigned buttons at the top of the matrix. This means you could also use the time division buttons performatively. So far, we've only used 16 of our available 64 steps. We can easily change the length of the pattern by holding the sequencer length and then using the purple steps and just pressing anywhere on the grid to choose a new end to our sequence. We can easily choose odd lengths here. The screen and assign keys offer us shortcuts to bar length divisions, 8, 16, 32, and 64. Here we also have the option to extend a sequence, which copies the current pattern to double its length. The second half of the sequence could then be edited to avoid sequences becoming too static. If we go over 32 steps, we can change to the second page of the sequencer from the main sequencer view. Another way of adding events to the sequencer is by real-time recording. We can activate this by pressing play with record mode enabled, or vice versa. The record button will flash when the sequence is playing. If we press record and play together, it will record ARM, meaning that we'll begin recording as soon as we play our first note. We have a metronome which can be turned on via the Metro button to make playing sequences live more manageable. There are also metronome settings available by pressing and holding settings, and then pressing metronome. Your playing will be quantized to the currently selected time division and played back once the first part of the sequence is finished. Overdub mode is great for real-time recording and building up unique musical sequences in layers. We can still add accents and slides with the matrix buttons in the same way as we did before. Let's switch over to the modulations view, where we can essentially add automation to the synth parameters in our sequences. We have 3 modulation lanes which can each be assigned to a different parameter. These are again represented as 4 groups of 3 rows, 1 row per modulation lane. We'll begin by recording a modulation in real-time recording mode and perform a movement of a particular control. I was enjoying the glide control earlier, so let's go with that. As we record into the sequence, blue steps will form to show you on which steps movements have been registered. It's important to note that after 1 bar, the modulation recording will turn off, in contrast to recording in notes view. Now, as you can see, the display shows the first modulation lane, master glide time, and 2 more tracks are available. If we want to erase a modulation lane, just press and hold button 8 and press the assign button for the lane you want to delete, in this case 5. We can also use the step recording mode to edit the modulation lanes. To do this, enter step recording mode and select a step as we did before. And then to add modulation, simply turn the desired control to create a change for this step. This is a great way of getting more dramatic or accurate changes we couldn't create in real time. Once notes and modulations are recorded, we can edit them using the step edit mode. To enter step edit mode, just pick a step and press and hold it for around a second. This will split the matrix into 2 halves. The half the note was selected from shows the 16 steps of the sequence, and the other half shows the 6 available notes for that step in blue. The note lengths will be shown by dim blue lights stretching out to the right. If we want to edit that, we can either press squares on the matrix, or we can press and hold a note and turn the amount knob. If we have no note selected and we turn the amount knob, we'll see all 4 notes are extended, or we can pull them all the way back to be short hits. To remove notes, we just have to deactivate them by pressing their button in the matrix. If I want to add new notes to this step, the behavior will change depending on whether overdub or overwrite is active. In overdub, each new note played on the keyboard will fill the remaining note rows available. However, if overwrite mode is selected, when I play new notes, it replaces all the notes on the step. If I want to add more than 1 note, I need to hold them as a chord. To come back to the main view, all I need to do is press the record button. If we press and hold the sequencer button by the matrix, we have some extra sequencer utilities available to help us manage our sequences. For instance, if I press and hold the sequencer button and press 1, we copy our sequence. So I can go to Presets, pick a new preset, go back to our sequencer, press and hold, and press 2 to paste. If I want to paste this with the automation as well, I just hold sequencer again and press 3 for sequencer and automation. We have several options available to easily erase the current sequence or just note data or automation data from the sequence, which are options 4, 5, and 6. And we also have the ability to transpose up and down 1 semitone with 7 and 8. Also, in the main sequencer page, when the sequencer is active but not in record mode, we can actually mute it with button 8. We also have play modes for the sequencer, which include forward, pendulum, random, and walk. A final feature to note is that if we repeatedly press the sequencer button by the matrix, we can cycle between different sequencer displays, which show us the information about our sequence. It's also worth noting that when we switch into sequencer mode, the PolyBrute changes Timbrality mode to split, which we discussed in the synth voice video. The lower split will transpose the sequence, with the upper split allowing you to play along. Okay, so that's the sequencer. Let's move on to the Arpeggiator. To use it, simply activate the Arp button and play some notes. We can hold these notes with the hold button. The sequencer view is now showing us how many notes are played in the matrix buttons and giving us some options on the screen. We can change octaves, all the way up to a 4-octave range, and we can even copy to sequence. This is a great way to generate really interesting ostinatos. We have the same time division options available, but have different play modes available for the ARP. We have up, down, inclusive, exclusive, order, which plays the notes back in the order you played them in, random, and pattern, which applies the ARP over 16 steps. Any changes in notes you play will create a new 16-step pattern, and it still follows the octave range settings. The lowest note has a higher probability, so it keeps it feeling more musically grounded than just a random. We can also determine the pattern length, the same as we did with the sequencer, by pressing and holding the sequence length button and choosing a new end. If we find a sequence that we like too much to let go, we can still copy to seek from our main sequencer settings page. Alongside having a great polyphonic sequencer and arpeggiator, Arturia have also included a new unique hybrid of the two, the matrix arpeggiator. This offers an amazing balance of the playability of an arpeggiator with the structure and control of a sequencer. To access it, switch to the sequencer view on the matrix, and then press the Seek and ARP buttons together. The screen displays our basic options, which include the step pages, as well as notes and modulation view that we had in the sequencer mode, plus the option to copy to sequencer that we had in the ARP mode. To start playing, just play a chord as you would for a standard arpeggiator. We can now see the matrix arpeggiator in action. Row A, B, and C represent accent, slides, and active steps, like we had in the sequencer. Rows D to I represent the 6 notes being played, low to high, and rows J to L transpose each step plus or minus 1 octave. We can change the rhythm by deactivating steps. And add slides and accents. You can extend the sequence using the sequencer length button. And we can even make notes polyphonically trigger. On top of that, we have the same 4 play modes from the sequencer to introduce more variation. The power of this mode is that we can create constant change by simply playing new chords. Alright, that's it for the arpeggiator and the sequencer. I'm hoping you got to see how creative they can be and offer you another way to explore all the sound sculpting the PolyBrute has to offer. In the final episode of this series, we're going to focus on the settings menu and the PolyBrute Connect software, and I really promise you they are more inspiring than they sound. Thanks for watching, and check out the links below for more info.